Welcome, everyone, to Lighting the Void. And we're going to do the replay from the UFO con today at Friday. And Dave did the hosting, and I went around grabbing people. And that's pretty much what it was. And so all of the junk, the live junk that where it kind of messed up is edited out. That way, I've edited this for your enjoyment, and so you can hear all the speakers and not all the crazy audio stuff we were going through. And it's really cool. And then don't forget, tomorrow we will be live broadcasting. And, yeah, so there's really no news or nothing like that. So just enjoy all the live interviews we did. I think it was Kathleen Martin. What was it? Stanton Friedman, James Clarkson, Mike Clelland. Okay. Yeah. And Cindy Lapore. Okay. All right. And if I missed one, you'll hear it. So there you go. And we'll be back tomorrow, too. You never know. I mean, we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants here. All right. So just enjoy.
There you go. Yeah, I can hear it. So how you doing today, Kathleen?
I'm doing very well.
I know, this is kind of weird.
My lecture.
All right, great. Do you remember we talked back in December, a while back? I talked to you in Stanton.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was
probably
a while back
on our
ago.
new book.
Yes, it
Fact
was.
Fiction
Yep.
and Flying Saucers.
Flying Saucers, you're right.
Yes.
You know what? You could take this off if it bothers you. It's no problem. I can hear you fine.
Okay.
So, your lecture today, how'd that go?
It went very, very well. I talked a little bit about our new book, Fact Fiction and Flying Saucers, some of the information in there about the history of government involvement in the investigation of UFOs, the studies that they had done that showed very good evidence that between 21.5% and nearly 27% of their cases could not be identified as balloons, as aerial phenomena, conventional, as hoaxes, as anything else of a prosaic variety.
Okay.
That they were true unknowns.
Okay.
Also, I talked about the history, the government's findings,
Right.
the decision to cover it up,
Right.
and who was involved in the cover-up. And I talked about some other information that is not in the book, too.
Okay, cool. Now, since I talked to you, I believe the CIA released like over like 1 million documents or something like that online.
I have read that the CIA released some documents. I haven't had the opportunity to look at them. I've been extremely busy. I'm MUFON's Director of Experiencer
Right.
Research. I'm also on the Edgar Mitchell Foundation
Right.
for research into extraterrestrial encounters. That keeps me extremely busy doing research on a new book.
Oh, good.
And also, I have a lot of conferences that I'm speaking at this year as well. They're all on my website
There you go.
at Kathleen-Marden, MARDEN.com. So if you want to see where I'm speaking this year, just go there. And it's listed.
Okay, that's awesome. And so what can we look forward to in your new book?
In the new book. Okay, I'm doing research on this.
We
But
understand.
there are going to be a variety of topics covered. My associate, Denise Stoner, with whom I wrote the Alien Abduction Files,
Okay.
is a paranormal researcher.
Oh, okay.
And she's taking a college course right now with Bishop Long
Okay.
on angels, demons, and she's doing a lot of research on paranormal phenomena as
right.
well. And so she's going to write a chapter in the book on her findings.
Uh-huh.
I'm bringing other investigators in, people who are highly educated. So we're going to have some of the overlap between UFOs, contact, and the paranormal. I don't know if you're aware of this, but in the research project that Denise and I did in 2012 to identify commonalities among experiencers, we discovered that 88% stated they had paranormal activity in their homes and that it was somehow related to their contact experience.
Right.
So we have even broken this down further through the Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Encounters. Their research project, phase 1 of it, is completed. And so we have those results. 66%, I believe, of their over 2,000 experiencers who
Wow.
participated in that study
Right.
said they had orbs, light orbs, in their homes that appeared to be intelligently controlled. And we're getting those statistics on MUFON. Our study is not done yet, but our results from what I've seen so far are pretty consistent
Right.
with Freeze. So very, very interesting information that we're going
Indeed.
to be coming out with.
Yeah, indeed. That's very interesting. I have a question for you. What have you discovered about the rise in exorcisms?
Boy,
Where to begin? Huh?
yes, where do I begin? There is definitely a rise in exorcisms. I somehow believe, from years and years of research that I've done, that a certain part of this has to do with angels and demons. Over and over again in my investigations through the years, I've heard that these extraterrestrial, so-called extraterrestrials, are evil. Not just bad, but evil.
Mm-hmm.
That they attach to people, that they show up in people's bedrooms, that they're interdimensional. No craft is seen,
Right.
but they're showing up. They're taunting people. They hold people upside down by their ankles. They're leaving scratches all over people's bodies. Those are not visitors from other planets.
No.
Those
that's not malevolent at all.
those are malevolent beings.
Right.
They're demonic, interdimensional beings.
Mm-hmm.
And it appears to be a war between good and evil. And fortunately, so far, the good is prevailing.
Oh, good.
And I hope it continues to.
Yes.
But a lot of people, I've worked on these cases, have been bothered by these malevolent forces.
Right. Have you had a chance to talk to anybody in the clergy or anyone from the Vatican or anything like that?
I haven't had a chance to, but my associate, Denise Stoner, has. And yes, there is an increase.
And I'm sure we'll
there's
find that out in
concern.
the book, right?
Yes, you will. Absolutely.
We don't want to give too much away.
I don't want to give too much away.
No, that's all right. Well, getting back to UFOs, and of course your history with your aunt, or,
Yes, Betty Hill.
and Barney. Has there been any more information to come out on their case, or have you learned anything else since we last talked?
You know, I've been taking a closer look
Okay.
at their case, and particularly at the cover-up by the Air Force, and examining exactly what Betty and Barney stated, that the craft was as large as a dinner plate at arm's length after it swooped down toward their vehicle. And remember that an aspirin covers the full moon, so you can imagine how large that was.
Right.
And Betty even stated that it filled up the whole windshield of the car as it hovered overhead. And she talked, and Barney talked, about the vertical and lateral movement of this craft. The Air Force then stated, and I have all of these records, they stated no vertical or lateral movement. They said that it never moved. They said that they thought it was the planet Jupiter or an advertising searchlight.
Right.
An advertising searchlight in a desolate area during the off-season in the
sound right
White
to me.
Mountains of New
Right.
Hampshire.
Right.
And even two officers at Maxwell Air Force Base in 1974 did a study, and that study is titled, Should the U.S. Air Force Reopen Project Blue Book? They covered the Betty and Barney Hill case, and they said that the Air Force's conclusion on the Betty and Barney Hill case was as erratic as the UFO itself. They said that the Air Force totally ignored the two radar reports, even though they were not just blips on the radar screen, that there was a solid object there. And so you can even find that report online if you Google Maxwell Air Force Base 1974 study. And boy, it is an eye-opener. It reveals a lot of good information, and I presented that at my lecture today. That was part of it.
Right. And for our listeners, which book can they get from you that tells more in depth about Betty and Barney Hill?
My book that tells in depth about Betty and Barney is The Alien Abduction Files. That has a little bit. Captured the Betty and Barney Hill UFO experience.
Great. And they can all go to your website one more time?
Yes, they can go to my website at Kathleen, with a K, Martin, MARDEN.com. You can order autographed copies of my book. Stanton Friedman wrote 2 chapters in it. It has both of our autographs. You can order it on my website, or you can get it in many different formats at Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, but you won't get our autographs there.
Right. You want to go to the website?
Yes, you want to go to the website if you'd like our autographs.
There you go, folks. Thank you a lot, Kathleen.
It was my pleasure.
It's a pleasure meeting you.
Nice
in
talking
person.
with you again.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Take care.
And maybe we'll talk to you again later.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Have a good Kathleen Martin, everybody. That was awesome. I never got to meet Kathleen in person, and now I have. And I feel privileged. So thank you very much again, Kathleen. All right. We got Mr. Joe Roop coming back over here. This is really cool, man. I got to meet Kathleen Martin in the flesh. That's awesome. I met Stanton Friedman last year at CITD, and that was really cool too. And I'll tell you what, Stanton is just as chilled as he is when you listen to him on the radio or you see him on Ancient Aliens or anything like that. It's really cool. And hopefully we get to hear from Stanton also.
Marathon.
And, right now we got Joe Roop coming back over here.
Jesus, man. When I tell you I don't know what I'm doing, that is an understatement. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm lost. Everything's so cool here. Like, all the stuff is cool. Every booth you go to is cool. Everything's cool. All the people are cool.
Well, right now, Craig wants to know what types of people and events are at this conference.
Oh, well, I mean, you got... why don't you talk to her? She's an author. She's got a cool book. You got authors here. You got
No problem.
MUFON from 3 different states are here. You got people that are selling... There's a bed over there, dude, that you can lay down in that has, like, some kind of orgonite pillow and everything, and you can actually feel the energy in it. And she said, won't you lay down right here? Real tempting to lay down. And I'm like, I'm going to break this bed. I'm not laying down in this thing. Because, yeah, dude, if I break that bed, then we're going to have to leave.
Oh, no, we don't want to do that. Let's not do that.
Yeah.
I brought up the volume a little bit on your microphone.
Oh.
Yeah, but that's
Let me
because
hear.
Kathleen was here.
Let me hear how. Oh, God.
It's not that bad. No, that's good. I don't mind talking right into the microphone.
Right on.
Yeah.
There is, let me think. There's a few tarot readers here. Now, is she the one giving readings to people? Okay. And what was her name again? Cindy Lapore. And she wrote a book called Dolphins and Whales Forever. And she believes a lot in dolphins and whales and stuff. But people come over here and she's giving them readings and stuff. And then that store, I don't know the name of it, to be honest with you. There's the people from a reservation are here. I need to look at all this stuff again, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Well, you can look at it right in there, I think.
Yeah. Let me see. I don't know if I want to do this. Hold on. Okay.
Smooth. That one's smooth.
You know what I really want to do, Dave?
What's that?
It's going to sound bad.
It's okay.
I want to go listen to Linda. She's talking right now.
Well, I kind of figured that.
Look, hey, we're on here. Fringe FM.
Awesome. We are in the program, ladies and gentlemen, of the Ozark 30th UFO conference.
So we got the Veil of Truth Omniversity is here. Handcrafted jewelry, incense, oils, meditation supplies. And that is, let's see what else we got. Arlene Braswell, Psychic Medium, Intuitive Tarot. We've got Travis Walton, Hattrick Enterprises from Branson, Missouri, and handcrafted UFO merchandise. Then we got David Marlin, or
right.
Marler, excuse me, who's a speaker from New Mexico. And then, of course, you got Ozark Mountain Publishing from Huntsville, and you can visit their website at ozarkmt.com. Indigo Sun is here. That's really cool. Here's something interesting. Hyper Squirrel Beer. They got a beer booth here or something, you know, and they're going to have a party after this, man. Did you know that?
You told me about that. Yeah.
I told you about that?
Oh, the beer?
Roof party.
No.
Yeah, roof party.
I didn't hear about that.
Kathleen told me about it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So she'll be there.
James Clarkson, the Clearly Agency, science fiction books. Okay, that guy that was over here telling us his Sasquatch story, this is who he's from. Apache Indigenous Defend at Dulce Base.
Oh, dude, we got to get him back.
That guy needs to come back over here and talk.
Yeah. Do you want to talk to everyone while I go get him, or you want to go get him?
I don't know where he is. He's probably upstairs. That's where everybody went.
That's true. It's just us down here with everybody else, but it's probably because Linda's talking.
Yeah.
And we want Linda to come down and talk to us. Man, I felt tongue-tied.
Yeah, it started doing the lag thing again, didn't it?
Yeah, just a little bit. Not bad.
Mystic Forest. MUFON, Kansas. High Desert Turquoise. Arkansas MUFON. And Ruth Ann Friend. Church of Divine Intervention. And, of course, you got us and KGRA here.
Right.
Right on.
That's what I say.
So it is. What time is it?
It's 3:56.
Okay. 3:56. Linda's going to be speaking for another hour. And at 5 to 7 is dinner. Grant Cameron comes on at 7 to 9. I don't know what we're going to do. I think, are you shutting this down at 6?
Yeah.
Okay. And then tomorrow we might not do that.
Well, tomorrow I plan on come back at 1.
Let's see.
So, guys,
it's hard.
It's we didn't schedule anybody in advance. We're missing the boss.
Yeah, no doubt.
Deb is not here with us tonight.
Where's Debbie?
Yeah. So, and not only that, it's so different. But she's probably listening and laughing right now too. I told you.
We're good.
Nah, Deb's cool. But
here comes Ozark Mountain Publishing.
Oh.
Could talk to them.
Why don't you talk to them? Bring them over here. Or I'll bring them over here. Here, you come over here and talk to them.
No, I'm good. This is the guest chair.
Okay, well then you jump in here and you talk to them.
No, I'm good.
We have Ozark Mountain Publishing. We're broadcasting live right now. Do you have a minute? Come on. One of you guys. All you got to do is talk to me.
Just tell them about your website.
How you doing today?
Hey, doing great.
All right, cool. I'm Dave with Beyond the
Hi.
Strange Radio, and
Hi.
we're live right now. Nancy.
Yeah, Nancy
Okay.
Vernon.
Okay, Nancy.
General Manager of Ozark Mountain Publishing here at the UFO conference in Eureka Springs.
Have you been doing it the whole 30 years?
Now, I wasn't here for the whole 30 years, but quite a few years. I assisted with it in various locations.
Now, when they say 30 years, is it 30 years of this, or did it evolve, or do you know about that?
It started here, I believe, I want to say the first meeting was like 50 people.
Wow.
And from there, they said, well, this isn't going to go. And Lou said, no, I think we're going to keep on trying. And each year, they got a little bit bigger. And here we are now. And we have anywhere from, I think this weekend, we've seen like 450, looking at 500. We've had up to 800.
Yeah. Definitely more than 50.
Definitely more than 50, yeah.
No, that's
We've grown.
great. That's great. Yeah, and you know, the place that you guys picked, this is really cool.
Oh, this location is wonderful. Yes.
It is. It really is. When Joe and I were looking for it, we were like, it can't be in the hotel. And then when we saw the back part, we're like, oh, wow, this is going deeper. And then we're like, whoa, that place is huge. So, yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah, there was only 1 year that we didn't have it here, and that's when the convention center had burnt down.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the one time, and then they had to have it another location. Mm-hmm. But as soon as the convention center was back, right back here again.
Right back in there. That's cool. Yeah, this is definitely great. You got a lot of vendors.
Yeah, and a good variety of products too. Mm-hmm. And very friendly. I mean, very knowledgeable in their products. A good group of people.
Okay. Well, are you like interested in any of the speakers? I mean, I know you're putting it on, but who do you like to hear the most, or what is the topic that you like the most?
Well, it's a large variety. I like the ones who investigate the cases, who have the physical evidence, the pictures, the stories. They go out into the field and investigate, talk to the people. All aspects of it, really.
Okay, that's cool. I believe LMH, Linda Moulton Howell, is speaking right now. Are you familiar with her?
She's talking right now. Yeah, she's been in the business for a long time.
Long time, yeah.
Really good investigator.
That's
great.
great.
A lot of stuff that she's uncovered.
Cool, right on. So at the end of this, about how many people do you think have gone through here?
Actually, Christy's the one who we want to ask on that. She's
I met her last night, by the way. She's very nice. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, she's the one who greets everybody as they come in, and she would be our numbers person.
Okay. I bet she'll be tired by then.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to shake any more hands.
I know whenever we left the office, we had pre-registered, I think, about 420 at that time.
Wow.
And the walk-ins usually really surprise you. I know we were expecting like 100 or more just to walk in the door.
Right. You know, I'll tell you something. There's been a couple of people that we've ran into in town, and they're like, oh, yeah, they're talking about it. I mean, this whole town talking about it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's really great that people can just walk in, and I'm sure the vendors love it because, they get their business. And
oh, yeah, that's one thing that we really like is that we have the vending area open to the public.
Mm-hmm.
Just come on in, check it out. You never know what you're going to find, who you're going to get to talk to. And a lot of times people are afraid to talk to others. I've seen something, but I'm afraid to talk to somebody.
Right.
Here,
Exactly.
you don't have to worry about that.
Exactly.
Just come on in. No one's going to think you're nuts.
Right. And just so you guys know, everyone, I haven't seen one person with a tinfoil hat on.
No.
And if they did, I'm sure they'd be joking. But no, this has been really great. And thank you again for
Okay.
just
Thank
stopping
you.
by and talking.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Nancy, everyone.
Okay.
Yeah, this has been an amazing event. There's been a lot of people here today, and it kind of goes in spurts with the vendors area. And right now it's kind of calm, like I said. Linda Moulton Howell is talking right now, and that's probably packed right now. That room is probably just no way you're going to get in there. But hopefully we can get her on either a little bit later or most likely it'll be tomorrow's broadcast. Like I said, we haven't really had a chance to talk to very many people, and although I do see another person here, and I definitely would love to talk to him, and that would be James Clarkson. And James Clarkson is an investigator who has stood in the two worlds for many years, a career professional investigator in the criminal justice field, and is a lifelong researcher of the UFO mystery. And let me see if I can get him over here here in a second. Can you get James real quick? In that purple shirt? Yeah. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to get James. James Clarkson. Oh, please, yeah. Thanks again, Nancy. Appreciate it. So James has been a investigator. He's had a 20-year career, city police officer and a fraud investigator. And he's had many titles, patrol supervisor, detective sergeant, fatal accident team manager. And after retiring 20 years, he has actually, let's talk to Cindy right now.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to you. Sorry, man. I had to edit.
I know, it's okay. This is all off the fly. How you doing, Cindy?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Really, really well. All right. So, Cindy, do you want to let the audience know your full name?
My name is Cindy Lapore.
And what brings you here today, Cindy?
I am a dolphin and whale emissary and a psychic and a book author and an artist.
All right. Great. And when did this start happening for you?
I started with my UFO contacts when I was a small child. I've been psychic all my life. I don't know what it's like not to be. And I went into animal communications and dolphins when I was about 20.
When you say animal communications, I'm guessing that you're saying basically you're reading their minds.
I'm saying basically what?
You're reading their minds? Or it's a
no.
telepathic communication?
I am shutting up and listening.
You're shutting up and listening.
Animals have a lot to say. We just don't listen.
Like what?
Well, like the dolphins have a lot of messages for humanity.
Okay.
Dolphins are actually extraterrestrial.
Right. We're talking about that.
And they are here to teach humanity joy and power and standing in your power. At the same time, unity, community.
Cool. When did you start listening to them?
Me and my Chihuahua lived on a sailboat for 5 years.
Oh, okay.
And I had my Chihuahua on the top of the sailboat, which I was already communicating with her.
Okay.
Because anybody who lives with an animal, dog, cat, whatever, they communicate.
Right.
And so I had her, she always heard the dolphins before I did.
Okay.
And we went up to the front of the boat, and Abigail looked at me and she went, well, talk to them, because they were all riding the bow waves. And I went, oh, yeah, right. And so I leaned over the front of the boat and I said, where's your babies? I see a lot of adults, but I don't see any babies. Where are they? And all of them disappeared. And I went, darn it, Abigail. You just got rid of all the dolphins. And she goes, no, wait a minute. And so in like less than 5 minutes, all of a sudden, here comes a megapod with all these babies and the dolphins. The juveniles are turning sideways and looking at us, and I'm, of course, screaming and jumping up and down.
Of course.
And so I thought about it for a second. I went, okay, let's play a game. And I said, jump. And all the dolphins jumped at one time.
Wow.
And then I said, okay, blow bubbles. And they all blew bubbles at one time. And
That's
I went,
cool.
I think I'm onto something here.
Right.
And it changed my life. I never looked at a single animal ever the same way. Birds talk in pictures. They'll like send you pictures of things. Every animal's different in how they communicate.
Right.
But the trick is you just stop and you listen. And if you have any sense at all, even reading their body language, I mean, they talk with everything.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, for those who can't read or listen to animals, who's studied animal life scientifically in the scientific, field, genre or community, I should say. I'm sure they've learned how to study body language and that kind of thing as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So, yeah, there's a lot that you can pick up, right?
Well, we got a lot to learn from animals.
Exactly. Well, we're animals.
Well, yeah.
So
We don't think we are, but we are.
see, that's the problem, right?
Exactly.
we think we're king, but we're not.
Exactly.
But it sounds like a silly question, but we know that they have a lot to say. And I'm
Yes.
sure it has a lot to do with our planet,
Yes.
our environment.
Yes.
And I'm thinking right now they're probably screaming at us to stop destroying our planet. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely. The dolphins actually have a Save the Humans program. And they have long-term goals. Like, they live 100 years as opposed to us. They call us the sandwalkers. And their main messages to us is to learn how to be connected with each other. And when we learn to value each other and ourselves, then we'll learn to value the planet. So living in joy, learning to be present, 100% present,
Right.
so that we even know what's going on. Being connected with each other makes us care about each other. If we care about each other, guess what? We change humanity,
Right.
and then we change the way that we live. And we will value the earth if we value each other.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. And I think I'm not trying to make excuses for the human race. I'm not. Believe me, I'm not.
They just call us silly humans.
We are silly.
Yes.
And I think we really need to all learn where we come from
Yes.
and then our purpose.
They call it our special porpoise.
But I'm bummed.
Exactly. They have a great sense of humor.
That's awesome, yeah.
I was working with the oil spill, after the oil spill. And, of course, I've been scuba diving in the Gulf of Mexico all my life.
Okay.
And I was communicating with the dolphins and doing actual physical dolphin rescues and trying to do what I could to make a difference during the oil spill when I got extremely sick. And so that is how the dolphins came to me when I got home. And they brought me the book, Bubbles and Billy Sandwalker, which the main character is an autistic child who doesn't know his place in the world, and the dolphins and the extraterrestrials teach him who he really is. There is not one negative word in the entire book.
Right.
and I did that on purpose. And it's also got 42 pages of illustrations.
Right.
So the book and disseminating it is actually how I really stepped into my power in being a speaker and a teacher and clairvoyant and helping people learn who they really are. And in teaching the children, which is part of the Save the Dolphins, Save Humanity program, really will make a difference in the planet in the future. We're also working on a marine life park.
Okay.
And I go all over the world speaking and teaching dolphin play shops. I don't do workshops. I do play shops. And I teach other people how to step into who they really are also. So it's not a bad life if you're don't weaken.
Yeah, right. And today, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. And today you're working with people, but if they were to bring their pet, I mean, I know that's probably not what they want to be called, but
Four-legged pupples.
four-legged pupples. There you go. You could communicate with them or listen to what they're saying
Oh, absolutely.
and let the person know, their person, what
I
they
strengthen
want.
communication. During my readings, which I'm doing a lot of those here today, I actually I introduce people to their guides, and I strengthen communication between the other side and the person that I'm doing the reading with,
Okay.
which is very healing.
Sure.
And then with the pupples, or the kittles, either one,
Love it.
I strengthen the communication between them and their owners.
Good.
So it's multi species
Right.
communication, and it's an amazing job to be able to do that.
So, what? Well, not what, but the expression on these pupples' faces when you're telling them that their, pet or animal or whatever you want to refer to them as, is saying, "Well, she doesn't feed me very much. I really wish she'd take me out more on a walk. That one time you made me go bathroom for so long." Does it surprise
These
them?
are all
do they
communications
"Whoa,
that
how
they
do you know
have.
that?" Right.
Absolutely. They will tell me, my toy is stuck under the lounge chair and I can't get it, and it's been under there 2 weeks. Could you do something?
Wow. And then when they find them,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
like,
I get a lot of emails.
"That's awesome." That's
Yeah.
gotta be like the greatest part.
The
How
feedback.
did you know? Well,
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know. They told me.
Exactly.
There you go.
I'm not the person who is making these messages. I'm merely the communicator.
Right. See, there you go. So this weekend, what is your strongest message that you're trying to get out to people, or what do you want to achieve?
My strongest message is to bring joy and beauty into the world.
Okay.
And I do that through my jewelry, through my readings and healings, and through my book.
And your website?
My website is www.dolphin, DOLPHIN, hugs, HUGS, number 4, letter U, number 2, .net, NET.
Okay.
And people can also reach me through Facebook.
Okay.
I have my international bestseller, Dolphins and Whales Forever, here, that I will sign for them.
Oh, nice.
And it's done by the top 20 dolphin and whale communicators in the world.
Cool.
So I wrote my chapter and I wrote the conclusion. Brag, brag. Shameless.
Hey, you did it. So,
Exactly.
there you go.
And
All
they can also reach me through dolphinhugsforyou2@gmail.com.
All right, cool. Very, very cool. That sounds all great. And we talked a little bit earlier, and you had mentioned that you had a podcast that you have done before, or a show, And are there any archives in YouTube or anything that people can listen to?
Oh yeah, I have all kinds of free teachings from the dolphins on YouTube,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
and that's through Cindy Lapore, Lepori. There's only one, and I also have my show Seas of Light that is on archive through Blog Talk Radio.
Okay, very
And
good.
if they Google my name, the first 5 pages is me.
Wow.
So I've
Okay.
been pretty active.
That's pretty awesome. Well, thank you, Cindy. for
Thank you
taking
so
the time
much.
And talking with me, and we'll be here the whole weekend. So
Absolutely.
I got a
And-
lot of questions about I don't know. See, I'll say I can't. I feel like I don't own anything anymore. It's not my dog. It's my friend.
Exactly.
So-
And none of us own anything or anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So they actually think of you as their human.
Well, yeah, especially cats, right?
Yeah,
Cats probably
exactly.
are the most. Like,
Oh, yeah. And I mean, not all
You're mine.
communications are pleasant.
sure,
I mean, sometimes they're pretty cranky about some things.
they deserve it.
Yeah,
sometimes.
exactly. And they want a voice and
We're
they
not
want to
always
be
the
heard.
best humans, and we
And we're,
tend to not pay attention as much as
well,
we
we're
should.
oblivious.
Yeah, well,
Many people are.
yeah, we got too much going on.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
But
yeah.
anyways, well, thanks
So
again
thank you so much for having me on your show.
Absolutely.
And I look forward to seeing people here.
Thank you. Yeah, if you want to let your people know about this little interview that we did, it's on BeyondTheStrange.com or YouTube Beyond the Strange.
Great.
All
Great.
right.
I'll let everybody know.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Cindy. Cindy Lapore, everybody. Dolphins, animals. It's awesome. It's all great. All right. I'm sorry?
Fun.
Oh, and it's fun. Absolutely. All right. So I'm looking over across the way, and I see Mr. Roop talking to some more people. I'm not sure exactly who else he has lined up for us. Was hoping to talk to James Clarkson, and he is no longer in the room. I have no idea where he went. So we'll find out. Craig, you're still hanging in there, right on. I appreciate that, my friend.
Hey, Dave.
Yes.
James is going to come here. I got to go back and get him, though.
Okay, great. So we do have James Clarkson coming in here in a second.
It's a marathon. We'll get everybody on this thing, whoever wants to get on. Everybody needs a little spot.
So we got till 6 o'clock, and I'll tell you what. In the meantime, we'll take a quick little break.
Look at Star's book. It's just techniques.
So everyone, don't go away. We'll be right back. Right after this. So hang out and tune out and just chill with us. We'll be back. A little bit more about James Clarkson, who'll be here soon. For the last 30 years, he studied the mystery of UFOs and the same attention to detail that he applied to criminal investigations. In 1986, he joined the Mutual UFO Network, applying the same passion for solving mysteries to the world of high strangeness. James Clarkson serves as the Washington State Director of MUFON and the Special Assignments Team for MUFON. He has lectured at many UFO events across the country and in Paris, as well as appearances on radio and TV. He is author of Tell My Stories, June Crane, the Air Force, and UFOs, as well as the Westport UFO Crash Retrieval Event. James is pretty much talking all weekend, so
All right, so here's the thing.
right now we will have
Actually, walk around there. It's better right now to walk around there.
James coming around.
Yeah, just walk around there to the back.
Either way.
You go back there, too. This is his wife.
Oh, okay, cool.
Where do you want me?
Right there, James.
Watch the voice.
An entomologist is a good wife.
Can we get another chair?
I'm fine. I've been sitting forever on the stand.
Well, it's nice to meet you. My name is Dave Cruz.
Hi, Dave.
Nice to
How
meet
are
you.
you?
There is a chair.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Do I need to use these?
Nah, dude, perfect. You sound great.
Good.
And I was just telling the audience a little bit about your bio. And wow, so you did investigations as a police officer.
Yes.
And then after that, you got more involved in the UFO community.
No, actually, they're kind of parallel.
They're parallel.
It's been going all my life ever since I was about 12 years old.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm a child of the 60s, and so I grew up on, well, actually, a child of the 50s when I was born, but growing up back then, I have always gravitated towards science fiction, anything like that. And like many other UFO people, one of the most important movies that I've ever seen, bar none, is The Day the Earth Stood Still, the original version with Michael Rennie,
Right. Yeah. No,
which is the good one.
Yes. Classic and the best one.
Yes.
Yeah. Keanu tried.
It's okay, but it's... No, you need the original to get the full effect.
I agree. You know, I was telling people that the Twilight Zone, for me, when the one episode of To Serve Man.
Ah, yes. That's a rather negative view of alien contact.
It is negative, but I think we need a balance because I'm sure they're not all friendly.
I don't see how they could be. I think one of the things that I mentioned during my presentation, I really believe this is true. I think that life that we encounter out in the universe is going to be a lot like life we encounter here on Earth. I don't think that's a big stretch. And obviously, when we encounter life here on Earth, there's things that you need to be careful of. You don't want to get between a mother bear and her cubs.
Right, definitely.
You don't want to be around a polar bear when he's hungry. I mean, there are things that I'm sure that dealing with the aliens on a much more complex level will have the same sorts of things. There will be things that you can do and things that you shouldn't do.
I agree with that. That's for sure. And speaking of being on Earth, there's been a lot of theories that they were here before us. Do you agree with that?
I think it's very possible, probably even probable, that when we reach that point in our development, which has been called by Arthur C. Clarke, childhood's end, that when we meet them, the particular aliens that will probably want to encounter us first will more likely be similar to us, and so it may be very surprisingly more of a family reunion than anything else. I personally kind of subscribe to the idea that all of the great religions and all the great myths of history have similar themes. One of the themes is the Great Fall and the Great Flood.
Right.
And the Great Fall is us leaving the Garden of Eden. And this may have been when our parents, quote unquote, according to some stories, the Anunnaki, stories like that, human beings were created essentially as a workforce or a slave race. And then the people that created us, because of their own problems, they left Earth. And when they left, that was the Great Fall. They basically said, see ya, you're on your own.
Right.
And we had to figure out how to survive.
Right, exactly. But then there's the theory that they haven't left. Well, some of them haven't left, and that they're actually mingling with us.
I like that theory because then I'm always trying to figure out who have I met who might be an alien.
I wouldn't know if I'm one or not, but yeah, it would be a trip.
It would be.
Do you want me to read your palm and tell you?
You want to read my palm?
And tell you if you're an alien.
Sure.
You can wait till you're done with Jim's interview.
Okay, great. And I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
I'm Joanne. I'm his wife.
Oh, great. You can point that to both.
We can do that.
Yeah.
No, I just asked him if he wanted me to read his palm and tell him if he's an alien because I read palms.
Well, we'll do that in a little bit.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. So, what is your intent to get across the people that are here this weekend?
The biggest intent that I have is to try and get people to take basically an organized and sensible look at the UFO phenomena, to be excited about it, to have a sense of wonder,
Yes.
to want to know more, to keep asking questions. That's the most important thing. I definitely do not fall into the group. I'm not going to tell you exactly which alien you saw,
Right.
or what kind of, model Star Cruiser he was driving. I'm more about ask the questions, find out what's being covered up. We just need to keep pushing.
Right. Have you collaborated with Stanton Friedman or maybe even Richard Dolan?
Collaborated directly, you mean on a particular project, or have I been to conferences where they were also speakers?
Either way.
Well, I would say the latter is more true than the first.
Okay.
I have been to multiple conferences where I've met Stanton Friedman, I've met Richard Dolan. There used to be the UFO crash retrieval conferences.
Okay.
Those are over. I think there were 10 years worth, ending in 2009. They used to be in Las Vegas. That you would meet all of the heavyweight speakers there.
And the ones who have encountered more or less redacted documents, information, that sort.
Well, now that kind of research I've definitely been involved in before.
Okay.
I originally got into that sort of research back in about 1999. This was after June Crane had passed away.
Okay.
And I was still working for the police department then. And in fact, it was a snowy evening. There was nothing going on in town. And I was listening to Art Bell on the AM radio in the patrol car.
Right.
And they had...
We all did.
Exactly. They had Dr. Robert Wood and his son Ryan Wood were on there. And Robert Wood was involved in the aerospace field for over 40 years. His son is certainly involved in aerospace industry also. But they were both extremely interested in the majestic documents and in trying to get to the bottom of the UFO mystery. In fact, it was Ryan Wood who started the crash retrieval conferences in Las Vegas as a result of that effort. And I called him after the Art Bell show. I called up this 800 number, and you got to bear in mind, back then you couldn't just get on the internet and get all the documents.
Right.
So I called the number and said, gee, I'd really like to have copies. And oh, by the way, I'm a cop up here in the Pacific Northwest, and I've got audio tapes, and I've got all the personal papers from a lady who worked at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio between 1942 and 1952.
Wow.
And oh, by the way, she got to handle a piece of the memory metal. Well, I told him that, and next thing I know, Joanne and I were both on a jet headed for Newport Beach, California. And I went into this Hyatt resort, and I was like a kid in the candy store. I went in this room, and I was sitting next to all of the people whose books I had on my shelf.
Wow.
And that's where I met
cool.
Stanton Friedman, and I met Linda Howe and Paul Davids and Jim Mars and people like that. And I told them the June story. I have to correct one thing. I don't think Stanton was there, but he was supposed to be there.
Okay. Probably.
But they were all the main players.
Yes.
And I began to realize that there was this whole other world, another level to the study of UFOs that I was not aware of at all.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, totally. We're talking about the Majestic 12 documents, Project Blue Book. We're doing research with that as well.
Well, absolutely. In fact, I know something about that. June, part of her duties when she worked at Wright-Patterson, because her basic duty was being clerical typist.
Right.
Also had office manager duties. And that was back in the day when if you reported a UFO, some person would actually type you a letter. And she told me she had this whole paragraph that she had memorized about, from an engineering viewpoint, the flight characteristics of the object you have reported are impossible. It was this whole, boilerplate quote. So she had written a lot of those letters. And that's why when in 1993 and then in 97, when the Air Force published that book, Roswell Case Closed, that's what made her so angry, because she knew that they were lying, because she knew that they were using the balloon lie, as she called it.
Okay.
They had used it before. They were just saying the same thing they had always said, that it was just a weather balloon.
Right, exactly. Area 51. I mean...
What do you mean? That's a complicated subject.
I know it is, but I guess what I'm asking is, what have you learned about it that we don't know?
I think the biggest, I don't know that I have specialized knowledge above and beyond other researchers. I don't.
Okay.
But I obviously pay very close attention to what's going on in this field. And in 2015, I believe, that's when I was at the International UFO Congress, their event in February down in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Okay.
They had Bob Lazar as one of their main speakers.
Right. Okay.
And he had not gone public with anything in 20 years. He'd been basically a recluse as far as the UFO community is concerned.
Okay.
And we got to see him, and it was quite an event. And he was interviewed live on stage by George Knapp. And this, I don't know if you've ever been to the UFO Congress, but they've got one big main hall. I'll bet it holds 1,000 people.
Jeez.
And it was packed. It was standing room only.
Sure.
It was really well attended. And the way that they showed close-ups of Bob Lazar, I, as a police officer, I was studying his face for what I call tics or tells, indications that he might be lying.
Right.
I didn't get any sense that he was lying, but you have to listen to his story closely.
Right.
Because he says that, yes, he was hired. Yes, he worked at Area 51. Yes, he says, I thought I saw an alien through a door. Yes, they told me I was working on extraterrestrial spacecraft. But even he says, that's what they showed me. He said, I don't actually know what I really saw or what I really did. So you have to take this with a grain of salt.
Sure.
They could have been using him as kind of a way of defusing the entire UFO movement, or getting people to not think that it was possible that there are UFOs or crashed UFOs or alien bodies being held by the U.S. government.
Right.
Exactly. This could be a very clever disinformation ploy, and even he admits that he may have been used. So you have to remember that when you say, okay, Bob Lazar, Area 51, you have to remember there's a caveat, there's a warning there.
Right.
To be careful how far you go with drawing conclusions.
Right. I mean, it could be another Doty case.
Exactly. I don't want to end up like Dr. Benowitz.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Well, James, thank you for your time. Is there any way I can get you back on for a full episode?
Oh, I'm sure we could arrange that sometime.
That'd be wonderful. And where can we find your information on the internet?
JamesClarksonUFO.com. The most direct way is to my email, which is very simple. It's UFO reality, all one word, at Comcast.net.
Comcast.net. Awesome. Awesome. And would you like to read my palm now?
I would love to read your
We could do
palm.
this. It's a little sweaty. I'm sorry.
Oh, that makes it better.
Oh, I don't know about that, but
Are we reading this on the air?
yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So here we go. Thank you, James.
What's your name?
I'm David.
Hi, David.
She's going to read my palm on the air.
I'm Joanne.
Oh, yeah? Okay, cool.
Do you want? Let's see. You scoot a little closer.
Okay. Move this microphone over here.
That's right. Okay. Well, I'm Joanne the Psychic. I'm also Jim Clarkson's wife, which maybe makes me even more famous. But
There we go. Okay.
my grandma was a psychic.
Okay.
And so I've learned I can do cards and palms since I was a little girl.
Okay.
So I've looked at thousands of palms because I'm no longer. Are you right-handed or left-handed?
I'm right-handed.
So your left hand is your potential, and your right hand is what you've developed. You actually have really interesting hands.
Oh, gosh.
Huh. You've never had your palms read before, have you?
No.
Wow. Huh. You're a clever guy. Tell me your name again. I've talked to so many people all day.
I'm David.
David, okay. Well, for one thing, David, you're really shy, so I'm surprised that you let me do this on the air. Okay?
I'm learning not to be.
Okay. Well, yes, your left hand is actually. Oh, no, your right hand's pretty shy too. You're, how should I say? You're a very, very, very nice person. You have a lovely heart line. Okay.
Oh, well, thank you.
You have an interesting line of reason because your line of reason was very reasonable for a long time. You tried to have a kind of a more conventional life, and then all of a sudden, whoops! It went way down to the amount of the moon. So yeah. So your thinking or your way of thinking vastly changed. Looks to me like you've had a childhood that maybe a lot of travel or changes or something, at least travel maybe. And how should I say?
Bizarre.
But you've had a lot of love in your life. You have had people that have thought a lot about you and were very supportive and loving. So you've gotten strength that way.
I love you, Dave.
Yeah, thank you. We won't go there yet. He has the thumbs. Your thumbs are actually the most important thing in the hand. The tip of your thumb is your willpower. Then the middle of your thumb is your judgment, and then the base of your thumb is the Mount of Venus. And I don't know if we'll talk about that on the air.
Okay.
Okay, but it's a great Mount of Venus. Okay. Are you married?
I am married.
Okay. He's a great husband. Okay.
She might have words about that, but
No, you have interesting tips of the thumb, willpower, because you're not a person that says my way or the highway, but you are clever enough to, you're a good technician. You're good at figuring things out.
Oh, good. Thank you.
You're also a very good goal setter.
Okay.
And it's important to you. You don't always finish everything, but it's important for you to complete things.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a big asset.
That's reading me pretty good.
You don't consider yourself a leader. You consider yourself a support person, and you are very, very supportive of other people. You tune in well to them. How should I say? A good cooperator. You have a really nice Saturn finger. Like I said, you are basically kind of a shy guy. You need at least some time by yourself. He can be a party animal part of the time, but then he needs his own space.
I'm laughing because this is totally me.
He also is very sensitive to beauty. Anything beautiful, he's a tear to the eye is something that's when the dog dies or there's a beautiful sunset. Money is not his main goal in life. He's clever. But balancing his checkbook isn't the favorite either. Does your wife do that? Sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay. On your right hand, look, you have a very interesting break here again in your life and your reason are sort of the same. But then there's this break and then this extreme line of fate that kind of, again, tends toward the moon. You have a lot more intuition than you give yourself credit for.
Okay.
If you think something is true, it probably is.
Wow.
Yeah. I would definitely go with that kind of thought. And again, look at these big tips of the fingers. You're a really smart guy. You like to think about things. You're a ponderer, not an impulsive guy, probably. And
I can be.
You can be, but you like to think things through. And actually, you like to think about things. You're probably a lifelong learner. You like things that have some meat to them. You're also great. You're very good at standing up for the underdog. Boy, you're a great defender of people that need help. Bless your heart. Wow. And actually, he's got a great Mars. He's also a very courageous guy. I think that's why, how should I say, When I'm saying he's not impulsive, he's not going to just go out and wild, crazy things without thinking. Pretty responsible sort of guy. I think you've had to be that way in your life.
Okay.
But you are a courageous guy. And so if the building was on fire, you probably would run in and save the people and maybe the cat.
I would.
So, yeah. So it's good news for cats.
Yeah, here we go. I have one.
Good. And again, look at this really interesting thumb. As an unusual thumb, you're like I said, your willpower. You're never arrogant. You really aren't arrogant or controlling. That's another good thing, wife, if you're listening.
Again, she might have words with that.
No, you're determined enough. That's not a wishy-washy thumb, but it's a thumb that wants to achieve goals, wants to support others, certainly believes in certain causes, and would really go to the line for what you believed. Mm-hmm. That kind of a thumb. You would never say I'm right just because I'm right. You'd say I'm right because it's the right thing to do, and that's something you would risk a lot for.
Okay.
So and then you've got a really nice heart line too. Your life and your reason is always you always try to be this reasonable guy, but there's this other guy that has all these interesting thoughts and intuition. That's always going to be kind of a thing for you.
Okay.
You know, how far out there should I really go? And do I have this exterior? I think have you traveled a lot?
As a technician.
Yeah. I think you like to travel. You like different cultures, different learning, things like that, too. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's what I'll say on the air. That's what I'll say, period, Dave. He's a really, really a fascinating guy, but basically a very, very nice person, too.
I appreciate that very much. Thank you for not making it too painful for me.
No, that's not a problem.
I really appreciate that. Where can they learn more about you and you being able, if they want their palm read?
If they wanted their palm read, they can contact me either on Facebook. I have a Joanne the Psychic on Facebook. My email is strange, but it's my maiden name, which is Mokosh, Mokosh 28 at Comcast.net.
Okay.
Yeah. Mokosh is actually a Slavic goddess. It was my maiden name, but I discovered that randomly. And there's a lot of research now. The Slavic language was never written down. This is totally irrelevant to the discussion. But as goddesses go, the Slavic language is never written down. And so they have a lot of people are kind of through stories and even artifacts. And so there is this goddess. Very powerful thing. And it was my last name. Isn't that just
cool.
Too cool? I know. But I go by Clarkson because I have this husband who's a ufologist. And what can I say? Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Joanne. Appreciate it. Thank you for coming. And I have to have you on the show, so I'll probably contact you as well.
My grandmother was a very interesting person, too, and how I got involved in the fortune-telling thing. That's a good story.
That's great.
And then of course, actually, I was a hospice nurse for many years, so the book I wrote actually is called There's Always a Miracle.
Do you want to put that, say that on the microphone? You wrote a book.
I did write a book. I was a hospice nurse for many years. Actually, I retired last year. But I wrote a book called There's Always a Miracle, True Stories of Life Before and After Death. Mm-hmm. And this involves extraordinary happenings that occurred around the death experience, both to me personally and then a number of clients that I took care of when they were passing, what their families saw or experienced or what I experienced personally. It's an amazing thing.
Definitely got to check that out.
Okay,
Thank you very much. And one more quick
I'll sit here as long as you want. I just don't want to monopolize the airwaves here.
I just want to get more information out.
Yeah.
Because I'm always interested in all kinds of things.
I can tell that.
One of the things that interests me I come from a Bible background.
So do I, actually.
Right. So reincarnation was something that was taboo.
Oh, yes.
And I'm learning more and more about that. That this is a place, basically, where we're learning. And we're going to keep learning until we get to that higher self and we go on to the next level or however it's, And so one of the things that I want to know is, can you tell people's past lives or about their past lives?
That's something I'm just kind of beginning to get into and study. And I think a lot of us who had been, it's kind of as you can see, reading your palm, basically I'm telling your tendencies and talents. And if you had certain questions, I could probably answer it looking at your palm, and that was a very kind of cursory palm reading. I usually do palms and then I do tarot to, find out more specific things. And so if people specifically ask about past lives, we can certainly ask about that and see what kind of a response that we get. Okay. I've had 2 experiences with retrieving past lives. I was hypnotized to do that, to see what I got, and I got a sort of an interesting response that I thought was valid. But actually, I listened to a tape, and I meditate anyway, and I had just a kind of a mind-blowing vision of a past life of mine that I thought was extremely valid, and it involves something that I had known as you know, in past lives, there are people that we have in this life that recur in our past lives, and usually in very different ways than they are with us now. Mm-hmm. And this vision that I had of myself, and actually a teacher of mine years ago who was very important to me, was just mind-blowing. But it was so validating in many ways. I thought, whoa, that's why all that was there.
Right.
So it is a fascinating thing. Like I said, I'm beginning to learn more and more. And like you, I think a lot of us are becoming more aware of this as a real valid thing for the way we think certain ways and do certain things.
Yeah, for the longest time, I've always thought one way.
Yes, well, I grew up Catholic, where our family was extremely Catholic.
Right.
I went through Catholic schools all the way through 12th grade, and a lot of my experience was more positive than other people's experiences. And I was a little girl. My father died, and we were.
Sorry.
I know it was It opened my eyes to many things. That's a whole other story. But it was a huge economic blow for my family, I guess, and the church really took care of us. And we couldn't have survived without the church at that time. And even the death experience of my father was made very he died of cancer when he was 42. And the church was, again, so supportive. They brought food. They brought, everything. And so that was a really nice thing. And then, a lot of I have a very good education because of the Catholic Church. Do I believe all the things they taught? No, I don't anymore. But some things, I certainly believe that God is love, and that's what all churches teach. So, but I've kind of, there were a lot of great mystics in the Catholic Church too.
Yes, I'm finding that out.
Yeah, actually. Yeah. So it all kind of comes together. And as we grow and learn, like you, I'm a lifelong learner. I like to think about interesting sort of things and other possibilities. That's what keeps us young and intelligent and growing all our lives. So
yeah, I can't stop thinking.
I know.
I just got to have the answers sometimes.
Yeah.
But anyways. Well, thank you again for stopping by.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Very nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you, too.
Can I come to your booth here a little bit? Will you read my poem, too? Or
Sure. No, I'd love to read your poem.
Stanton's pacing, so I'm going to grab him, too. And I've got people set up for tomorrow, too, so we don't do everything tonight.
Oh, okay.
Delegator. Cool. Poor Dave has to do all the work.
He's better than me at that.
I am not. I'm not. All right, Joanne just read my palm. That's awesome. It's the first time that's ever happened. And, yeah. Joe got word slapped. Craig, you're funny, man. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're listening. Anyways, I tell you what, y'all. I am going to try something. Because something is not working. And
what time is it?
okay, not sure who that was, but I am going to try and see if we can get the phone line connected. But awesome. Stanton Friedman is here with me right now as we speak. Joe, somebody left their purse.
It's probably James' wife.
Okay.
I'll find out.
I don't think it stands. That's not his color.
No, it's not mine.
If I do a reading behind you, is that going to pick up on the mic?
How you doing, Stanton?
Well, we got rid of just about all our books.
I think that's a good
Didn't
thing.
bring enough.
There you go. Glad to talk to you again. Met you at CITD, and also we had a interview back in December, and that went very well. And we talked about your book, UFOs and Flying Saucers.
Fact, Fiction, and Flying Saucers.
Yes, yes. And that was great. What brings you today to talk to everyone?
Well, the idea was to come to this conference. My lecture will be Flying Saucers and Science.
Okay.
And I'll be reviewing some of the changes in our perception of where we fit in the scheme of things.
Okay.
You know, it wasn't too many years ago we thought we had the only solar system in the whole neighborhood.
Right.
And the only Earth, the only planet with water on the surface, so we're it. Big cheeses. Now, thanks to the Kepler satellite and other stuff, we know that there are planets all over the place. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them. One article I saw, a scientific article, said there are between 1 and 1.6 planets per star. Now let's make that local. Within 100 light years of here, which is just down the street, galaxy's 100,000 light years across, so we're talking about the local neighborhood.
Right.
That means there are between 10,000 and 16,000 planets.
Wow.
That's a lot. So I'm not saying they're all inhabited or anything like that, but you know, a good baseball player gets a hit 1/3 of the time, and he gets paid a lot of money for doing that. Mm-hmm. You know, so and most chemicals don't cure diseases, but if you're sick, you say, "Give me the stuff that works. I don't care about the ones that don't work." So when it comes to how much life is out there. For a while, one of the major arguments of the nasty, noisy negativists, as I like to call them when I'm being polite, is that, well, you can't get here from there. The nearest civilization is probably hundreds of light years away. Well, that's nonsense. In the Betty and Barney Hill case, there was a star map, and without going into all the details, those base stars were 39 light years away.
Right.
But like I say, as soon as you say there are 16,000 stars or planets within 100 light years, that changes the appearance.
It does.
When you throw into the picture the fact that the Earth is over 4 billion years old and the universe is at least 13 billion years old, and look at how likely it is that there are more advanced civilizations than us. Very likely, because we haven't been around that long.
Sure.
You know, look back 200 years. You didn't see much technology, did you?
No,
not
really.
So our view of the cosmos has changed drastically. We still have our ego. You know, people taking the attitude of aliens were coming here, they'd want to talk to me, say some of these astronomers and so forth. That's pretty silly. And, you know, what they say you can't get here from there. Well, I worked on advanced propulsion systems.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so you can get here from there. Not cheap, not easy. Oh, you know, Saturn V is a monster vehicle. But, you know, it sort of illustrates how wrong you can be if you make the wrong assumptions. In 1941, Dr. Campbell was a Canadian astronomer, and he was sick and tired of all the science fiction about going to the moon. That's ridiculous, he said. He published a, quote, scientific paper, unquote, in which he showed that the required initial launch weight for a rocket able to get a man to the moon and back would be 1 million tons. Think about that for a minute, because the Saturn V weighed 3,000 tons.
Right.
So if you make enough stupid assumptions, you can prove anything is impossible. You know? And also, we tend to forget how recent our knowledge of the universe is. In the 1920s, we thought this was the only galaxy, the Milky Way. Now we say there are billions of galaxies, a slight increase. We thought that energy production, you know, you burn gas, do things like that. Well, as early as 1962, that's a long time ago now, we realized that there are other galaxies And we realized that the process that produces the energy in the sun is not burning gas, it's nuclear fusion, which is a whole other ballgame.
Yep.
And, to show how important nuclear is, and I'm a nuclear physicist,
Yes.
so it's close to my heart, you might say. But we didn't even know there were neutrons until 1932. They've been there all the time, you understand, but we didn't know about it. But I was involved in a study of fusion propulsion for deep space travel in 1962. And no, we didn't build the system. It takes oodles of dough to build these things. But our conclusion, we had a $9 million contract, General Nucleonics, from the Air Force. And our conclusion was, if you're willing to spend the money, you can go. People say, well, what do you mean spend the money? What's the big deal? When I was working on nuclear airplanes for General Electric in the late 50s, mind you, in 1958, our budget was $100 million. We employed 3,400 people, of whom 1,100 were engineers and scientists. This wasn't 6 professors and 20 grad students. It was a major effort. Now, $100 million is a lot of money in 1958, So our perception of things has changed drastically. And to illustrate this may sound like a crazy sort of analogy, but let's look at the fact that in 1944, Big Bomb was a 10-ton blockbuster. Make a big hole in the ground, I'll tell you. It released the energy of 10 tons of dynamite.
Okay.
And it took a big B-29 to carry it, mind you. It was a monster. Okay. In 1945, we exploded our first atomic bomb. Released the energy not of 10 tons of dynamite, but 16,000 tons of dynamite. Still one bomb.
Right.
And you move forward to 1952, a fusion device, which is fortunate. It's nice because you use hydrogen as the most abundant substances in the universe. So that's kind of neat. Plenty of that around, not so much uranium. Anyway, in 1952, the first H-bomb released the energy of 10 million tons of dynamite. One bomb. So what that means is, if you want to go to the stars, we know how to do it. Right. It's going to take a lot of dough. It's not going to be cheap. But if we're at that point, then how about societies that might have started a few years before ours? 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years. How long ago could they have gone to the stars? So when you look at it, it's not just bombs we're talking about, in other words. It's control of energy.
Right.
And if we can do it, think about doing it now, then others out there could have done it a long time ago. So one reason that aliens would want to come here is to see how we're doing. Are we a direct threat to them?
Sure. Yeah.
Because they would know that their star works by fusion.
Right.
We have explored, a lot of people are surprised at this, we have exploded 2,000 nuclear weapons on this planet. Only 2 on people, thank goodness.
Right.
But 2,000 is a lot. We've got a lot of nuclear technology.
Right.
And so our perception of the feasibility of going to the stars is altogether different today. Mm-hmm. About how many planets there are is altogether different today. Frank Drake of the SETI Institute, not too many years ago, said there might be as many as 8,000 places in the galaxy that could signal us. They're looking for signals. I don't know why. I mean, Columbus didn't send a smoke signal to the North America when he came over,
right.
Before he came over. But it gives you an entirely different perspective when you recognize that there's probably loads of places out there with life and much more advanced than we are. I mean, we like to think we're the ultimate, but surely everybody realizes that technological progress comes from doing things differently in an unpredictable way. a little pocket computer is not a slide rule, a better slide rule. Altogether different physics.
Okay.
And so we need to grow up a little bit to see that the future is not an extrapolation of the past. They're not just going to improve what we have today. They're going to be new discoveries of new ways of doing things. Also, I find that I worked under security for 14 years. Big companies, GE, GM, Westinghouse, that sort of thing. And I hear people say that, governments can't keep secrets now. With YouTube and the Internet, you can't keep any secrets. We don't publish classified information on those places.
Right.
We can keep secrets. Big ones. Well, I mean, Lockheed developed a stealth aircraft. $10 billion over 10 years. In secret, mind you. The Corona spy satellite was our first spy satellite. We knew that the U-2 flying over Russia was going to get shot down one of these days because the Russians were getting better. So we started work in the 50s on a Corona spy satellite. The first 12 launches were failures. Number 13 got more data than all the U-2 flights that had been cruising over the Soviet Union.
Wow.
Now, I must say, the very existence of the Corona spy satellite was classified for 30 years. And it was not a cheap program. We're talking a lot of dough going into that. So people are under the false impression. Well, I'm a big advocate of the reality of Operation Majestic 12, MJ-12. I've written a whole book, Top Secret Magic. And yes, there are a whole bunch of phony documents. I don't care about that. The 3 good ones. And I'm convinced that they're telling the truth, and there really is an MJ-12 and stuff like that. Now, it is so important that we recognize that that group could maintain its secrecy for decades. And I get people tell me, those guys, we know the names of the guys who were on the original MJ-12. They would have told their wives what they were doing. No way. I worked under security. I'll guarantee you, I never told my wife anything classified.
Oh, right.
It's against the law, for one thing, and the penalties are pretty stiff.
Yeah, I'd assume so.
And the thing is that loose lips sink ships. It was a slogan during the war, but it's true. You don't know who's out there.
Right.
Listening, pretending to be a nice guy, kind of thing. So we need to recognize that secrets can be kept, and that it is not at all impossible for the government to maintain secrecy about the recovery of crashed flying saucers at Roswell, at Aztec, at Kecksburg, and the plains of San Agustin in New Mexico. These are real places, real events. Mm-hmm. And so we need to recognize also that there's a major reason for wanting to keep this stuff secret. And that is to keep your enemies from finding out what you know that they don't know. Technology kind of thing.
Right.
And so if I think you've learned something that would help me in what I'm doing, I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing, but I'm sure as hell going to find out what you were doing.
Exactly.
The other guy's work can save you a lot of money and time and so forth.
Yeah.
And, people forget, during World War II, if a German plane crashed in England, bomber, fighter, whatever, there were guys looking at the wreckage to find out what their technology is.
Sure.
If an American plane crashed over Germany, and we had bombing raids, this shocks people, with 500 planes at once flying over, dropping bombs. So if one got shot down, the Germans would look at the technology. Look what they're doing here. Look what this is made out of. We can learn something from this. So the need for security on far-out technology is pretty clear.
What about... Well, you talked about earlier that pretty much this technology has been around for a long time. We just didn't really know about it or developed it. But
Is there a secret crime?
Well, what I was getting at is the time that since Roswell, I'm sure you hear this all the time, and up till now, the speed of the technology that develops. Why didn't it happen before then?
Because we weren't spending the dough. Money is the thing. The Cold
Money was
War.
the thing.
The Cold War made all the difference. As I said, I'm working on nuclear airplanes. In 1958, we spent $100 million. In 1958, that was a lot of money. It's one project. $100 million. Lockheed spent $10 billion on stealth aircraft. Wow. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter who was putting it out. We're not talking about 10,000 here, 20,000 there. We're talking 10 billion. And so we must keep what we have learned separate from what the aliens have learned. In other words, we can't go on television and say, look how great we are, look what we've done. Because somebody might hear us who can learn from that how to make their system better. Mm-hmm. And you really don't want that. I mean, that's what...
No.
And the thing is, we tend to forget the extent of the military budgets. Right now on planet Earth this year, $1 trillion will be spent on things military. $1 trillion. How many kids died of starvation yesterday and the day before? And the
it's
day
a very
before
sad
that?
thing. Yes, absolutely.
From an alien viewpoint, we're a primitive society whose major activity is tribal warfare. I mean, look around. Right now, we're saying nasty things to each other.
But is that really our nature, or are we driven that way?
I'm an optimist, and I say we're driven. Okay? Some people will say, hey, that's the way we are. Mm-hmm. That's our nature. I don't know. All I know is that huge amounts of money are being spent.
Yes.
And finding better ways of killing each other. And what we're really dealing with, I think, is a search for power. People in power tend to stay in power. Mm-hmm. You may have noticed that.
Yes.
And so, on the planet, we have, I don't know what the latest number is, 195 countries. Okay. And the way to be in power is to have your own country, and you're the big shot.
Yeah, I can see that.
And so, there's nobody who speaks for the planet. Mm-hmm. As far as I know. I mean, we can talk about the United Nations. They don't rule the roost.
Right. They might want to.
Well, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But, so I'm concerned as somebody who has spoken in, 50 states, 10 provinces, and 19 other countries, given over 700 lectures, some of them to professional groups as well as 600 colleges. So I've been around and had feedback from my audiences. I always have a question and answer period, stuff like that.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so I know that people are interested in UFOs. I know I've only had 11 hecklers. You get more than that.
That's not bad.
About sports, religion, politics, I'm told,
Yeah.
So there's interest all over the world. I mean, I've spoken from Australia to Argentina to Finland to Saudi Arabia to Italy and France and Germany and, on and on and on. So I've had a pretty good sampling. And I'm vulnerable. That is, when I'm on the stage and I take an open question and answer period, they don't need to write out the question. Just raise their hand. First one up, I call them. And I don't know who's there and what he's going to say. So I've had a very good chance to see what concerns people, what they believe, and so forth. And, I find that people are willing to listen to the reality of flying saucers. I'm very pleased about that. I find that 10% of the people in my audiences believe they've seen one, but 90% didn't report it because of the fear of ridicule. So I'm trying to change that.
Do you think it's changing today?
Oh, I definitely think it's changing.
Right here shows a lot.
Yeah. I don't hear, I'm speaking tomorrow, who knows what I'll hear, but I don't see much in the way of violent antipathy toward the notion of flying saucers.
Right.
And I've been all over the place. So I think mankind is growing up, getting off. I mean, there were people who were saying not too long ago that all the intelligent life in the universe is right here on planet Earth. They're wishful thinkers.
Yeah.
You know.
Tooting their own horn.
Yeah. Yeah. So the flying saucer landscape has changed quite a bit. A lot of people are unaware that there have been over a dozen PhD theses done about UFOs. It's encouraging for me, anyway, to see the attitudes, the interest, the willingness to go along. I mean, not just because my books do well, but the tone of the questions. And I do lots of radio talk shows and stuff like that. And
I've heard you.
Well,
I'm glad you're doing mine right now, by the way.
well, you know what I'm saying. I'm not a masochist. I don't do this because I get a hard time. Because I don't get a hard time, even though I come on very strong. And for those who wonder, well, what do you mean you can come on strong? I say, I'm convinced 4 things. The evidence is overwhelming that planet Earth is being visited by intelligently controlled extraterrestrial spacecraft. In other words, some, underlined 27 times, some UFOs are alien spacecraft. 2, the subject of flying saucers represents a cosmic Watergate. That means some few people within major governments have known for a very long time that some UFOs are alien spacecraft. Remember, the question isn't are all UFOs alien? The question is, are any?
Right.
We need the baseball approach. Guy gets paid a lot of money for getting a hit a third of the time. You don't say he's a failure because he didn't get a hit all the time.
Right.
You know, you got to be careful what you think. The third conclusion is there's no good argument against the first 2. And the fourth is we're dealing with the biggest story of the millennium. But I say millennium because I don't want to get into religious arguments about that. But the aliens are coming. The government's covered up the best data. And we need to wake up and smell the facts. And let's get on with it, guys. I don't have forever.
A lot of us don't. Do you feel with the way that former presidents have been coming on to talk shows, programs like Jimmy Kimmel, and are asked the same question, where's the proof of UFOs? Or what can you tell us? And they're just like, not going to say anything.
Yeah, I've been interested in that at least they don't try to say, well, I've studied the matter and there's nothing to it.
Right. It's almost like, yes, there is, but I can't tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not surprised at that. I think we've moved a step up the ladder and
yes.
Looking and searching and listening and so forth. And I think, look, when the Pope says if aliens want to be baptized, we'd baptize them.
Don't know what kind of reaction
sign.
we get, but yeah.
Well, that's a good sign. He didn't poo-poo the whole notion.
Sure.
He could have. You know. So I'm still an optimist. A cockeyed optimist, some people would say. Okay, Stan. But, you know, I'm 82 years old. I've seen a lot in my day.
Yes.
And I'm still going strong. So let's get on with it. Let's get to the reality that we need to learn to use this information. Maybe stop spending all this money on military.
What's surprising is the information is out there for people to see it for themselves.
They can buy my books.
They can buy your books.
Well, I mean, I say that laughingly, but look, if you go to my website, www.stantonfriedman.com, you see a long list of books, DVDs, and stuff like that.
Sure.
Anybody who really wants to get the scoop on what's going on can get this information. I autograph everything I send out, so personally. So it's time for people to wise up. And yeah, there have been a few courses taught at the college level, but we need a lot more.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree with that. One last question. What do you feel is going to be the biggest revelation of this year, 2017?
Biggest revelation. I think that probably there will be some people making what I call deathbed confessions.
Okay.
That would be nice. Whoever kept a document or two out, never told anybody about it because it's violating the law. But if you're on your deathbed, you're going to die anyway, pretty quick. So what the hell? You may feel that it's time to tell I have a great grandson.
Sure.
To tell your great grandson what's going on, because you want the world to be different. I don't think anybody who's lived a good while on this planet wants the planet to continue toward more and bigger military budgets. Forget the welfare of the people. Build guns. Build ammo. I think we don't need that.
Well, I hope that there's better revelations. Yeah.
I'd like to see it.
Yeah. Dan, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
For coming by.
Thanks. Who's just hiding behind me here?
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
That's good.
Stanton Friedman, everybody.
Back problems, but I've seen you over here. You doing okay?
Yep.
All righty. Who do we have next? We see. Don't see Joe around anywhere. Let me see. Sorry, everyone. I am kind of fiddling around a little bit over here. Okay. Let's do this. I'm going to take a quick small break, and when we come back, we'll see who Joseph Roop has lined up for me. And maybe we'll have a couple of surprises. All right. And I'll try this again. This is really bizarre. I'm trying to figure out what Joe did to my computer. It's not playing anymore. Yeah, I don't think he did anything. But I really would like to have my music back. So let's see what happens here. Okay. Still not hearing anything. This is completely bizarre. What is happening here? All right. Thanks, Darren. I appreciate that. So much going on. So much. I promise tomorrow we'll have all these difficulties ironed out. Because for some reason it's just not working. Some of the stuff. Okay. Let's try this. Okay. Okay. We'll try this here. All right.
back to Texas to the other house and left it there for 10 years. I used to have a problem for many years. Anyway, I worked with college.
A lot going on.
Hey, this is Deb, and you're listening to Dave Cruz on Beyond the Strange Radio.
Ever seen an extraterrestrial? It can be hard to believe they exist unless you've seen one for yourself. What if I told you I've seen them my whole life, but have never had a witness who shared the encounter with me? Now, what if I told you I saw 4 of them, 2 with blue skin, and there are over 20 witnesses to this CE5 event? My new book, The Blue Beings, Visitation at the UFO Conference, documents actual accounts from real witnesses, many of which have gone on record to attest to this otherworldly reality. Be a part of the quantum paradigm shift that is taking place right now. Go to johnpolkmedia.com to get your copy of The Blue Beings, Visitation at the UFO Conference, on sale right now at johnpolkmedia.com. That's JOHNPOLK media.com.
This is Dave Cruz, host of Beyond the Strange Radio, and you're listening to KPLK, The Fringe FM.
Have you ever looked skyward and pondered UFOs, aliens, time travel, alternate universes, and parallel dimensions? Want to explore paranormal activities, ghost hauntings, various cryptoids, such as Bigfoot, sea and lake monsters? Greetings, Beyonders. I'm author Casper Parks, and you are listening to Beyond the Strange with host Dave Cruz. Help spread the word by posting links in forums and social media. Available at Speaker.com, YouTube, and Google Hangouts.
All right, everybody, welcome back. This is Dave Cruz with Beyond the Strange. We are here at the 30th annual. Oh, never mind. Sorry about that. Hold on. Yeah, anything and everything is just not happening the way I wanted to tonight. We are at the 30th annual Ozark Mountain UFO Conference, and we are trying to bring on our next guest here in just a couple of minutes. Joseph Roop is out talking with Mike Clelland, and I've heard Mike actually on a couple of shows, and more recently I've heard Mike talking with Greg Carlwood on his show, and it was very interesting because, and Deb heard a little bit about this, but it had to do with alien abductions and animals, most particularly owls. Very, very interesting. Yeah, that's cool, Joe. I get it.
We got more speakers coming tomorrow.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
I haven't talked to Linda yet. She's got a line up there waiting.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
And I stood in that line for like 20 minutes. I'm like, okay. Let me go back there and check on Dave.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Thanks, Joe. I know I've been telling everyone that, you're going back and forth. Oh, no. No. I didn't hear that. Oh, jeez.
No, they were cool. They were like, we break stuff here, film. And I'm like, yeah, but I broke it. A bull in a china shop, man.
Wow. I feel like that, too, sometimes. Don't feel bad, man. But, anyways, what I was saying about Mike is Mike has written extensively on the subject of alien abductions and synchronicities of owls, and it was his firsthand experience that with the elusive events that have been the foundation of his research. His website is http://hiddenexperience.blogspot.com, and it explores these events and their connections to the alien and contact phenomena. And it's pretty amazing, and I'm really glad that I have Mike Clelland on with me right now. Mikey, thank you for coming on, and you can talk right into the mic.
Nice to meet you.
And I appreciate the time. And I was just telling my audience right now about your research, or a little bit, and I recently heard you with Greg Carlwood, and that was a really good show.
Yeah.
And I think I know who you might be talking about, some of the people that had encounters with abduction and hypnosis and owls.
Well, so there's people certainly have. So there's the owl is it's a common enough bird. It's around. It's part of ancient mythology, and it's part of our modern mythology in the sense that it shows up in the context of the UFO abduction events. And I don't say that lightly. I say that after doing a lot of research and talking to a lot of people. At this point, I'm firmly convinced that the owl shows up alongside UFO contact. Now, there's a couple ways to look at this. One would be that it shows up as a screen memory, where someone describes, let's say, what's a very common scenario is they'll be driving at night, they'll see a large owl on the road. It seems somewhat unusual, but they dismiss it. And then when they get home, they realize there's somehow some missing time. They're 2 hours late. They should have arrived 2 hours earlier, but they're missing some time. Later, perhaps they'll go through a hypnotic regression, and the therapist will ask questions like, describe this owl. And they'll say, well, it had big black eyes and a bald head, and it was wearing a little tight uniform, and it was about 4 foot tall. So they're describing something that would be an alien. Now, so that's a sort of synthesized story there that I just shared, but it certainly has taken place over and over and over again in the literature, and in that researchers have uncovered this. It's very common. So that the owl is in that context of the UFO contact lore. Now, it also shows up as real owls. Okay. People will describe real owls. They'll say, like, oh, I saw this owl. It was in a tree, and I looked, and moments later, there was a UFO that flew over. Huh. Or they'll say, I just talked to one woman here who said, they were at the home of of someone having UFO contact. I talked to two separate witnesses, both investigating this house, and they said, come on, bring your camera, you got to see this. So they ran outside, and there was this huge owl in a tree. So she's taking pictures of this owl. It's a great horned owl. It seemed unusually large. Both of these people described it with, like, they could not believe how big this bird was. And then the bird flew off, and then the one guy said it vanished. It just went poof and was gone. And the woman didn't see that, but she was taking pictures. She had her camera. She was taking pictures. Daylight, owl in a tree. took some pictures, walked closer, took some more pictures, walked closer. The owl eventually flew off. When she reviewed the images, there was no owl in the tree.
Oh, wow.
And this is at the home of an experiencer. Now, this is a talk. This is someone I just met like an hour ago told me this story. Right. But this is the flavor you're getting. Now, that, again, I apologize in a way because that's a story that where it seems like that owl is somehow a projection, what I don't even know what term you want to use. Like it would be projected into the minds of the observer, like some sort of hypnotically induced image. Whether they use technology or psychic means, I couldn't even begin to guess. But and this is partially my own experiences. I went through a period where I was seeing a lot of owls. They were real owls. I was seeing them at very prescient moments. People, you'd be having a conversation at the height of the conversation. It was a spiritual conversation. These owls would show up. Uh-huh. And in the moment that I was having these sightings, it felt like I had a very clear, initially, this was back in 2006, so it's over 10 years ago now, and this is what started me on this research. When I was seeing these owls, I had the very strong voice in my head that said, this has something to do with the UFOs, and that's what started me on this. I started asking people, researchers and people who had the direct contact experience about owls, and I was suddenly like awash in these stories. And I've collected many hundreds of them at this point, and I've been trying to catalog them and archive them and include some of them in my online site and some of them in the book. And then it's also important that any story I include in the book or talk about isn't really a one-off. That story of the owl not showing in the photograph, I don't have exactly that context, that story, but I certainly have others that have a similar vibe or a similar feel to that.
Now, when I heard you on that podcast, I believe you were talking about two women who had similar experiences, and somehow there was some kind of connection.
Was there a hammock involved?
Maybe. I can't remember.
Okay.
I just know that there was similar traits to the women. I think they both have blonde hair or something like that. And
that's actually, this shows up a lot. Actually, it's showed up a few times.
That's amazing.
The weird thing is, like, so there's people. Someone contacts me on a Monday and said, I heard you know, like an owl story. You told an owl story. We got to talk. Oh. And this is a woman who. Well, there's a couple different versions of the story I could tell because there's several different stories that have almost the same. I call them back-to-back stories. Here, I'll do one of them. So this woman tells me the story. And this is she had been at an Easter party and had to leave the party, and because she felt like a weird energy. So she told her husband, like, okay, I got to go. Can you take my kids? Come home with the daughter. And so she runs home and she doesn't know what to do. So she's freaking out. Weird energy. She lies in her backyard on a hammock. And so, this lovely day in the springtime, an owl lands on one tree that's holding the hammock in place from one end, and an owl lands on the other tree that's holding the place. And that as soon as she lays down, boom, one owl, boom, at her head and her feet. Right. These owls start hooting to each other, and she felt like this electric energy running through her body.
Wow.
And she said it felt like she was being reconfigured, or they were energizing her, or they were recalibrating. That's the term she used. They were recalibrating her. And I couldn't help but like imagine like a circuits on a circuit board, right? And you plug one end and plug in another, and there's like a little battery or something that's getting recharged between the two, and those are the two owls or the two circuits, and she's the battery. Now, her husband comes home and says, you know, what's up? How do you feel? And she said, what do you notice? And the husband says, there's an owl hooting in that branch, and there's an owl hooting in that branch. So afterwards, she started doing hands-on healing work after this event. Like the owls recharged her. They charged her up, and she had like what amounts to magical powers from her hand.
Sure.
I've spoken to this lady at length. She doesn't exaggerate. So that happened on a Monday, and then on Tuesday I get this other story. It's like, oh, here's an account. And this one was already all written up. So all they had to do was send me the document. This woman sent me the document. And it was, she was in her backyard, and she was trying to come to terms with some stuff that sure seemed like UFO contact. The woman and the other one, she's totally out with her experiences. Her name is Susan Kornacki. She's the woman who had the 2 owls on each tree. She is completely open with her UFO contact experiences.
Okay.
This other woman, she's allowed me to use her first name, Kelly. She has had life experiences that certainly seem like UFO contact experiences.
Okay.
And she was wondering about them and pondering them and thinking about them. And so she's like lying in this hammock, and she said, I've had good luck doing this kind of thing before. So she'd close her eyes and count down from 10 and make the intention that she wanted to have proof, a sign. So she'd count down, she'd open her eyes, there'd be nothing there. She did it a few times and nothing happened. Then her little son, who was 10 years old at the time, comes and climbs on the hammock with her and says, Mom, what are you doing? She said, I'm like trying to do this thing where I close my eyes. And it's like, oh, no, let me do it. And without any prompting, the little boy says, Dear God, can we see a UFO? Oh. And they open their eyes, and there's this shining, diamond-shaped object hovering in the sky right in front of her. It's off in the distance, but it's right in line with it. And so the little boy is like, cool. And she's like, oh, my gosh. So the boy runs and gets the binoculars, and they look at it through the binoculars, and it's like this trippy, weird, rotating diamond that's reflecting all these colors. And it eventually floats off. Now, the husband shows up, similar to the other account, and he takes the binoculars and won't give them back. He's too fascinated by what he's seeing.
Sure.
Now, so here we have 2 stories, one on a Monday, one on a Tuesday. One woman sees 2 owls.
With a hammock.
From a hammock, and the other woman sees a UFO from a hammock. So I can't help but see, like, to me, it's like that's a weird confirmation of the symbolic power. Mm-hmm. In a way, it was a confirmation for me. It felt like these 2 stories arrived in my lap with this synchronistic power that was a strong confirmation for me.
Right. And these 2 women had anything connected to each other, like
they had nothing connected to. They had actually become Facebook friends, which is not uncommon for people with an interest in the UFO subject. There's a kind of little cloud of folks that you can kind of look on people's friend list and oh my gosh, they know this person. But they had never met. They'd never exchanged any comments between each other. They lived 44 miles apart, and they look remarkably similar. They look like sisters. They're not quite twin sisters, but they look remarkably similar. They recently met for the very first time, a little bit at my prodding, because I knew they were both in town. And the one woman had been living in Hawaii, and she came back, and so they picked a restaurant halfway between, and they went and met. And when they arrived at the restaurant, there were 2 identical owl statues side by side next to a fireplace, right where they were seated. They said, here. The waitress said, here, sit here.
Really
so
bizarre.
There's the 2 identical women next to 2 identical owls, and then they took some pictures and scratched. It was kind of a funky old restaurant somewhere in Massachusetts, and scratched on the wall of their booth that they were in was a classic gray alien head, and that's where they were seated.
Oh, wow.
So how do you make this stuff up? I mean,
no kidding.
Yeah, so that's one account, and all of the accounts have this how would you say it? Like the properties where it feels like you pull on the thread in the tapestry, and it connects to some other thread, and then you get sidetracked and pull on that thread, and then and every thread, if you pull on it, leads to some synchronistic clue.
Right.
Now, what that might, I wish I had a perfect answer to what the conclusion to all this stuff is. I don't. All I can say is that there's a synchronistic power. The owls are a symbolic animal that have been around humankind since the dawn of man, and that they are still playing that symbolic role. And it's not just UFO abductees. It's people who are reporting, who are going through meditation, deep meditation, people going through shamanic initiations. If you're on the Indian reservation and you're studying to be a shaman, you're seeing owls. This is understood in not even just in Native Americans, but all over the world. And at the times of death, people are so. There's a lot of lore that owls are ominous. If you see an owl or hear an owl hooting, that means a friend's going to die. I've heard that folklore. It's never shown up in any of the stories that I'm researching. Okay. What has shown up is that owls will show up after someone dies. Someone will have usually a parent will die, and then an owl will show up afterwards at the house. And the stories can be incredibly interesting. What's very consistent is these people will walk up to the owl and talk to it as if it's their parent or their dead loved one. And it's proves to be very cathartic and very rewarding, and it seems to alleviate grief. So there's owls certainly, from my research, seem associated with death, but there's nothing ominous or foreboding about it.
Sure.
Now, so you have death, shamanic initiation, deep meditation. People taking mushrooms will see owls, and I've got a lot of stories of that too.
Okay.
And so, and then the UFO contact experience, basically abduction. You have these transformative events that seem to be connected to the owl. So that was very helpful for me to get these outlying stories beyond the UFO contact experience, because it helped me better understand the sort of mystical power of an owl showing up at these highly charged moments. Obviously, you can see an owl in a tree at any point,
right?
And they're out there. There's plenty of people seeing owls, and there's nothing mystical at all about it. But people tend to know right away if there's some sort of mystical content.
Yeah, definitely a lot of similarities in those stories, and a lot of contact, possibly with mysterious or unknown,
I mean, death is a contact with the mysterious unknown, and that's when owls are showing up. Sure.
Exactly. Very cool. Very cool. Mike, where can the audience find more about your work and your websites?
You can Google my name, which is Mike Clelland, and it'll come right up, MikeClelland.com. Mm-hmm. You can Google my name and owls, and it'll also come right up there. I have two websites. One's more of has just my straight name, and that'll take you to my my research website, which is called hiddenexperience.blogspot.com.
All right, very good. Thank you, Mike.
Hey, that was
for
great.
Your time. I appreciate
Thanks.
it. Thanks. And we'll see you some more over the weekend.
Wonderful.
Okay, have a good day. Mike Clelland, everybody, and thank you very much. Definitely check that out. It is very awesome. Like I said, I heard some of the podcast, and it's really cool. A lot of different mysteries with owls and animals of that sort. But that was really cool. So if you didn't hear earlier, Joe Roop was telling me that he has a lot more people lined up tomorrow. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and end the show today. And then we're going to bring it back up tomorrow. And we're going to go over a lot of stuff that we didn't get a chance to go over. So we'll go ahead and do that right now. Maybe. Maybe not.
To be honest with you, like you were just saying a minute ago. I had the worst fight with my wife in my life.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Thanks, everyone, for listening to the show. Oh, I'm signing off right now. And hang on, everyone. Let me go ahead and stop this for a second.
Were you playing your countdown music?
It was.
Oh, I interrupted that.
That's all right.
So here's what I'm thinking about doing.
Okay.
So for my show tonight, I'm thinking about just replaying this.
Okay.
That because there's a lot of people that didn't get to hear this.
No, I know they didn't.
I didn't. I didn't get to hear your talk with Stanton, or Kathleen, or any of them. So
Craig's been listening to everything.
Has he?
Yeah.
Craig's the man.
He is. He's awesome.
And there's a few people on the network they're going to tune in about that time. I found out I was a very good lover. A very, very good lover. And I broke something. Did you not hear that?
I didn't hear it, but I heard you tell me about it.
Yeah, I went around a table and broke somebody's little glass thing.
Oh, man.
I'm sorry. I cleaned it up.
Oh, well.
But are we signing off for the day for live?
For live, yeah.
Okay. You never know. We might do something stupid, though, and broadcast at like 2 a.m. when we're out in the middle of the woods.
We might do a Periscope or a Facebook Live. We definitely want to do some kind of investigation while we're here.
Yeah.
There is a most haunted hotel around here somewhere. We're in the woods, man. I mean, a lot of weird, mysterious stuff happening out there. So I know Joe was getting spooked on the way up here when he was telling me about the woods that were looking weird.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
But, yeah, so we'll have some people on tomorrow, and we'll get that around the same time. So, gosh, what time is it now?
It's almost
6 o'clock.
6.
Central time. So
I think they're having a swinger party or something, so I want to make sure we go to that. Yeah. Oh.
Don't encourage him, Cindy.
I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong.
Do not encourage.
Yeah. No, I'm just playing. But, honestly, I think that as much as we need to entertain you guys out there, and I really appreciate each and every one of you listening, and we're always going to keep you informed, and we're always going to tell you what we're doing. And if you have any questions about anything, hit us up in the chat or email. We'll ask any of these people anything you want to know. And you can go to the website at actually, you can go to either ozarkmt.com or just Google the Ozark Mountain UFO Conference. And if you have any questions, hit us up. We'll find out for you, and then we'll get back to you on it. And
yeah,
we do want to kind of enjoy some of this stuff.
Oh, James comes and says, "Count me in on the swinger party."
I figure, James, you should be here in my stead, But yeah. And we might do something live. You don't know what we're going to get into later tonight, so you never know.
Darren was hanging in there too. I just saw him. He's got that picture with Stanton, so he was definitely here in the Stanton broadcast. And we got a lot to do tomorrow, definitely. So don't forget, come back. I'm thinking we're going to probably broadcast around 1 p.m. Central, so it's a little bit earlier for you Pacific folk out there. And check out Facebook, beyondthestrange.com. Also for information, and Twitter at StrangeDays2015.
Right on, brother.
All right. And like Joe was saying, we will most likely play this tonight.
Again.
So that way you didn't miss it. So, all right. Until then, I'm going to try to do this one more time.
I'm sorry I interrupted you, bro.
No, that's all right.
I just messed up the whole flow of things.
Oh, man, it's all good. The flow's been the way it's supposed to be.
These other radio stations are probably laughing at us, but let me tell you what, we got heart, baby. Right here. That's what we got. We're here with heart. That's what we got right now.
He got to be here. You got to see Joe. Anyways, everyone have a good night.